Hey, Twisted people. It's your girl here, Chauncey K. Robinson, aka Twisted Woman CKR. And I am so happy to be joining with you on this Sunday as we talk about American Horror Story double feature episode 9. And for this one I have as my side picture Mamie. Oh my gosh, was it me or was Mamie like the central focus piece for a number of reasons? This episode in particular, which was a wild episode. It's interesting, and we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna dive into this is the last episode. This is the episode before the last episode. We've only got 4 episodes in Death Valley. And I'm just kind of wondering where this is going to go. I mean, and we're going to talk about that, like kind of the perspective that you should have watching this, right? Like, is it a show that we should, I mean, some people were saying last live stream, like, oh, just give up on the notion that this thing even connects to Red Tide and just take it for maybe a self-contained thing or something like that. And, we got to talk about what that means in terms of like, what's the point of this one of Death Valley, although I am enjoying Death Valley. But thank you all who are joining me in the live chat, and those of you who are watching the replay and joining in the replay. It's always a pleasure. Tad from Iowa, right, Tad? Thanks for joining. Ray is saying round 2 because Ray was in the previous live stream I just did, which was on Titans. If you are DC Titans fans, I do live streams on that. And Josh, hey Josh, thanks for joining us, and to all of you who are joining as well. So wow, there was a lot. There was so much that happened and when I say a lot, I feel like there was so many, and I've said this about the previous live stream, but this one even upped it even more with all the conspiracy theories. I mean, we talked about this in the previous live stream where we were talking about the various conspiracy theories and whether or not you can enjoy this particular segment of the show just as much. Let's say if you knew if you were someone who paid attention to UFO conspiracy theories versus someone who didn't, would you really be able to appreciate some of the storytelling that was happening in the show, right? And I think, and hey, Solomon, thanks for joining us. And yes, you are on time. Yeah, I decided to start like 15 minutes after because it runs so close to tie-ins. I'm on time for this live stream this time. Yes, you are. Yay. Let's give it up for her. I just feel like I am enjoying this stuff, right? I am enjoying it as someone who looks at documentaries and things on UFOs and the things that, are weird and government conspiracies. I do still have that question on whether or not, if you're not well versed in that stuff, can you appreciate some of the things that they're doing with this particular one? I feel like, if anything, this was maybe a love letter to UFO conspiracy theorists. Like, I feel like Death Valley is like for all of us who watches those kind of things and wanted to see maybe it all play out in front of our eyes, like dramatized in such a way. And that's what we're seeing, right? And so I am enjoying that. I think also maybe this was the intention from the first episode of Death Valley. They have definitely, I feel like they definitely, gratefully enough, realized where their stronger aspect was of Death Valley, right? Which is the black and white stuff, which is the stuff from the past. That seems to be the better storytelling angle for them. As I said in the live stream on the first episode of Death Valley, I really didn't know what to make of the present day for quad that we had of those characters, and I wasn't really feeling them. I was like, are we going to be splitting it down the middle with these people for the majority of these 4 episodes? And I'm glad that's not what happened. I'm glad that what we have gotten in the past couple, or these past 2 episodes, has been more so them kind of being the present day situation, kind of being the accent on the bigger storytelling, which is happening in the black and white, which is happening in the past. And so I think I like that. I think that's better for this. Tad is saying, I loved when Mamie said it wasn't a nightmare. It was, oh yes. Yeah, we gotta talk about Mamie. She was something. Solomon is saying, you can tell that someone in the writer's room loved history and aliens. It's so fun to watch. It really is. And so let's talk about what actually happened. First and foremost, y'all, if y'all can give this episode a grade, what would it be? Let me know. I'm actually gonna give it an A. I think this was an A. The first episode of Death Valley, I was kind of like, I don't know where this is going. And the second episode was better because they leaned more on the black and white. And this one, I think they drove it home even more. I felt like they rounded out so much. And like I said, it's a question of whether or not I'm a little biased because I do know some of the conspiracy theories and things that we've heard before, right? So I enjoyed it as someone who knows about those, but I'm not sure if someone who didn't would really get some of the significance of some of this stuff, right? Tad is giving it an A. And so I think we're both in agreement, Tad, that it was an A episode. So let's talk about some of the stuff that happened. I mean, overall, the reason why I gave it an A is because, with the black and white stuff, that was really well executed in terms of everything, even the zaniness that was happening. Even with some of the more zany things that happened, it never took me out. It never devolved into what American Horror Story can sometimes devolve into when things get kind of absurd. I think some of y'all know what I'm talking about, where sometimes stuff goes so absurd that you can't even take the stakes seriously anymore, and I was a little worried they were going to start going into that route, and they didn't. I think they still held the stakes there. They still held some of the fear factor with this stuff. And so I think that stayed, and I was really appreciative of that. And then I even liked what went down in the present day one. A little tragic. They made some stupid decisions, and we'll talk about that, but it worked. It really actually worked. Solomon saying an A-. The Gen Z boys annoyed me too much for a solid A. Yes, but I felt like it worked for what they did, and that's why I kept it with an A. Tad is saying, I love the current timeline this time. Troy was really believable. Yeah, there were some moments that, they made stupid decisions, but it actually didn't feel contrived of a stupid decision. And I think that's why I was like, no, this works too. And we'll talk about that. So let's talk about some of the stuff that happened in the previous time, the time of the black and white. We had Valiant Thor, who I highlighted last episode, which is a very large character in conspiracy theories, right, y'all? Supposedly someone who came to the White House and was something of a liaison between the White House, Eisenhower, and the aliens. And so American Horror Story basically drove that home. I thought it was great. I thought, Cody Fern being there was awesome. I like him. I think he plays really interesting roles when he's in the an American Horror Story universe. I'm not tired of his face. I know, aren't there some actors when it comes to it where you're a little tired when they're in everything? And then there's some who I'm like, I want you to be in it. He's one of them. And so him being Valent really worked, I think, for me. But let me know if you agree or not. And they kind of went with the idea that he is a piece of technology, right? That he wasn't really. And this is what I was wondering about, right? In the last live stream, I was like, is he going to be an alien that is possessing another person's body, or is he going to be an alien in disguise? And they basically answered it that he was alien technology, like pretty much a really, really great AI bot, as Mamie found out later. So, I think what we got with his presence was kind of someone which was good for the audience because he explained things to us, right? It wasn't just so much the aliens. I loved sort of the thing of the tunnels in the White House, which was another conspiracy. And let me know. I'm going to touch on the different conspiracies because we got a couple, right? So the first conspiracy was Valent Thor. That was one. But then the other conspiracy was the thing of the tunnels under the White House, because that's also a conspiracy there. I mean, we know there's tunnels under there, because I think if something happens, like the president needs to be able to get out. But in terms of like how deep they go, I think that's that's something they won't disclose. There probably is. I mean, that would just be smart, right? If not, the president would be a sitting duck. But I love that they had it so originally all the alien stuff was going on down there. Now, did I believe it that Eisenhower was able to just walk outside of his room and just go downstairs? I kind of have suspended my disbelief with that, only because he's been doing that since Death Valley started, like taking the gun and going into a place. I'm like, you are the president. Like, where is his Secret Service? They can't be letting him do all this by himself. But they kind of made it so he was kind of a doer kind of president, which is fine, which I think is kind of like his real kind of biography. So I went with it, right? Tad is asking the question for all of us: was Valent a true alien or robot? And that was the interesting thing, like I was saying, right? Like American Horror Story made the decision that he was the liaison, he was the bot liaison. I thought they might have gone with something that he was just going to be controlled, but I understand why they didn't do that, because it would have got kind of repetitive, and maybe he wouldn't have been able to kind of talk to Eisenhower the way he did. Like when he revealed that they don't want to show you their true selves because they're afraid you'll back out of the deal. I thought it was also another interesting tidbit when Valent pointed out to him, he was like, well, the thing is, because Eisenhower's like, well, maybe they should just go to the Russians or whatever. Who cares at this point? What does it matter? They'll just take us all out. And Valent was like, I wouldn't actually go with that, because they don't actually want to go to the Russians, because the Russians are so far behind y'all and wouldn't make much of a difference. They don't want to work with them. Now, whether or not that was a little bit of American exceptionalism coming through in the writing, I don't know. But that was very interesting that they had them do that or say that. And I also, so I thought that was very interesting. And I thought it was interesting that Valent wasn't necessarily like evil, right? He's not evil, I think. And I'm glad they kind of introduced him in that regard, because last episode I was hating these aliens, and I still am, right? Because when they had possessed Mamie tell him, we want your signature so we can go to American public if we need to, I was like, man, they are cruel. And it's very hard because usually with shows like this, sometimes they try to make it so some aspect of the alien is sympathetic. There's a certain logic to them. It was funny last night, Michael and I, my boyfriend and I, my partner, we were watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 1978 version. And even in that, which is a great movie, I think it was my first time actually watching it all together. I've seen clips, but it's one of his favorite movies. So he watched that. And even in that one, Leonard Nimoy, all of them, so many Jeff Goldblum's in it, Donald Sutherland and everything. The aliens kind of explain why they're doing it. And it's not so mean necessarily. Not necessarily. And I feel like with this one, they kind of made them mean. And that made it kind of hard to be like, man, I just want someone that, get at these guys. But with Valent, it was like, okay, now I'm starting to understand it just a little bit more, right? Where it's not so much like, because they're in dire straits too. And they kind of picked the Americans because they thought they were their best chance. But they also made look like full-blown like monsters, to the point where we're like, do we want to merge with these beings? So I dug that. So we got the tunnels under the White House. We got Valent Thor, he's a conspiracy unto his own. Tad is like, because I don't think robots breed like that. Well, the thing is, I don't think Valent can breed. I mean, I think that's why Mamie kind of said that he was the equivalent of a, sex toy. Let's see. Yeah, it's a great movie, y'all. Hey, Deb, thanks for joining us in the chat, saying full of great actors. Josh, the 1979 Invasion of the Body Snatchers is one of my favorites. It's a very good movie. I was glad I got to finally watch it in full. Okay, so then what else did we have in terms of that plot line? We got Marilyn Monroe, one of my faves. Marilyn is one of my faves. She's one of my faves. I actually have a couple of posters of Marilyn here. I thought she got a bum rap in terms of, how smart and perceptive she was, and actually very much an advocate for equality and stuff. But that's just an aside. Learn more about Marilyn Monroe, y'all. She was actually an awesome woman. And so what we got was another conspiracy, Marilyn Monroe, and Nixon had something to do with it. I love this whole through line with Nixon kind of being connected to things and him kind of being this Machiavellian sort of evildoer, a human, right? Isn't it kind of interesting that they have this human that's kind of like on their side, kind of playing because of their own thirst for power, right? And it looks like in the next episode that he might get his just desserts a little bit. I mean, we know in real history he got his just desserts with the Watergate, but it seems like he might get his just desserts in the film, in the show itself. But what we had was the conspiracy that, one of the conspiracies that Marilyn Monroe did not commit suicide, that she didn't have an accidental overdose or commit suicide. Like she didn't go on her own accord, and that she was basically taken out. And there's thoughts that like she would leave messages threatening or saying that she'd reveal things or whatever like that. And so the original conspiracy is that JFK and Robert kind of came together, kind of not like malicious, I guess not maliciously, but saying there was no other choice, but they had to take her out. And this one, they made it so it was Nixon, and that JFK was really broken up about Marilyn Monroe being killed, and Nixon kind of making it plain, like, you better check your pillow talk. I kind of love that. I love old school kind of espionage, little political drama conspiracy, and I really like that. I like the actress who played Marilyn Monroe in this. I thought it was very believable. She wasn't there for long, but I dug it. So I thought that was really good too. Tad is saying, I wonder if Mamie is truly Mamie after she was possessed. And we got to talk about that because it's debatable, but maybe it's not, given Mamie, the real Mamie, and the biographies we've heard about her, which I want to talk about actually. And so, that was a whole thing about Marilyn Monroe being killed off for that. So I thought that was also something. Then we had the new president after JFK, because we already saw in the previous episode that they had JFK killed too, because they were afraid that he was going to start. So they kind of went back to kind of show what happened to Marilyn, because we know Marilyn died before he did. And then that happened. And then his successor, JFK's vice president who came in, was also brought in on it. So this conspiracy goes deep. I also thought it was very interesting that they had Valent kind of point out to Eisenhower about the tunnels and saying, wait a minute, you didn't know these tunnels were down here? And him saying, well, it looks like something the military is not telling you. This is very interesting. And for those of you, I feel I can do this little deep cut for those of you, because it seems like y'all are into the UFO and conspiracy theory stuff. Why not, right? There is that thought when it comes to clearance and things like that, that the president is not all in the know, that it's the military complex and those who are higher up within that who make it so the president doesn't know everything, particularly about the UFOs. We've had like Clinton and Obama and even Trump and others say, yes, there's some evidence of it and things like that. But the theory is that even the presidents aren't allowed to know everything, for whether it be security, whether or not, or more so probably because they don't want they don't want to have it so a president who might want to disclose stuff. I believe one of the theories is that President Carter at one time tried to get information and he was denied. That's one of the things, that he was actually trying to dig deeper and they actually denied Carter access to the info they had. So it's saying that this kind of runs deep. And I thought that was a little nod of the whole thing about Eisenhower not knowing about the tunnels, and telling you that I feel like that was a little nod of saying, hey, the president isn't the highest person in government here, that there's maybe a shadow government that makes some other decisions that are off the radar for the rest of us. But let me know what y'all think about that, because that's one of the conspiracy theories as well. Hopefully they don't try to demonetize me for this. I am not pushing anything that's like telling people to go against the government. Not at all. We are exploring a topic. YouTube, please. Ray is asking a question. What would you do as president in the same shoes, logistically and realistically, knowing Americans as we are, pandemic knowledge involved? That is a question. What would you all do if you were Eisenhower and what was going on? Or more so, are you asking, Ray, if you were JFK? Because JFK, it seemed within this universe, wanted to tell the American public, why Eisenhower decided it needed to stay a secret. He kind of went with, sacrificing a few. Honestly, let me know in the replay in the chat, y'all. For myself, may I never have to make that decision. I guess I'd have to strategically kind of play my cards, right? I think it would be a matter of trying to find out more about this alien race. Where are they residing? Since their planet is dying, are they in their planet? Are they on this dying planet? Are they on some far off spaceship kind of waiting to get down here that's kind of keeping them and stuff? And yeah, probably in the initial, I would have probably signed it and said, okay, you got to do, because I mean, what else am I going to do? These people have advanced technology. It's either let them take about a couple hundred people or 1,000 or so people a year, or they basically try to take us by force, right? Now, would they be able to take us by force is the question. They probably could try to nuke us or whatever. But since they couldn't live on our planet, maybe we could have got them in hand to hand. These are things that you have to kind of weigh. But how much bloodshed do you want? And I think as the president, he was probably thinking, it's kind of, that whole saying you see, the lives of a few for the prosperity of the many. It's the reason why people go to war. It's this idea of the soldiers are putting themselves at risk so that their country as a whole can be better, right? That's the logic between that. So I don't think Eisenhower is the bad guy in this situation. I definitely, and I think they've done a good job in displaying that he was between a rock and a hard place. And so I can't say that I would do much different than he did, to be honest. So there's that. Ray is saying, I mean, their tech and our tech escalation of conflict in history and a conflict being as it is. Yeah, I mean, we know when Eisenhower was in office, they were doing nukes and stuff, right? That was one of the things that was going on. It wasn't very good. I mean, nuclear war would have been, and as we saw as it progressed with the Soviets and everything, nuclear war would have been devastating for all of us. It would have been world annihilation. So if you could avoid that, what is that? The lesser evil? The question is, though, that's only an immediate help, because you also have to think, what happens when they finally create the hybrid, right? What's the future of that? And what is that hybrid race going to do? Does the hybrid race think it's better than the regular human race? Was this whole thing just kind of a prolonging of the inevitable of them trying to take over our planet no matter what? And that people who aren't hybrids were going to probably be relegated to slavery or worse once they could figure, or just basically breeding chambers, which is what they treat some of the thousands for already, right? So the question is, if that ended up happening, maybe war was going to happen anyway, right? I think, the question is what was going to be, I mean, in the media, it works, but in the long term, if you end up having these hybrids everywhere, right? So, Tad is saying, does anyone else wonder why Area 51 is still a shoot to kill area? Right? I got actually a little cute story about that, about Area 51. So, okay, so we had, Valent, or we had the tunnels, we had Marilyn Monroe. The other conspiracy theory was, I just had it in my head and I forgot it. What was the other conspiracy? Area 51, the creation of Area 51, right? Area 51 was the idea of, the whole thought process that alien stuff goes on there, right? That they built something and they really don't want anyone to go there. About a year ago, Michael and I, my partner and I, we actually went to Area 51, or we got close to it, right? We didn't get close enough, right? We went to the area where people can drive up, and we took a picture there. And as soon as we were there for longer than like 5 or 7 minutes or so, a government black car started coming towards us, to the point where Michael freaked out. He was like, we got to get in the car. We got to go. So it's not necessarily shoot to kill area. I think if we had tried to go further in, like try to scale down or something, maybe, but they definitely are still watching that area. We weren't even past the sign. We were a little past sign. We were near the sign and we were just taking a picture and the government vehicle was coming out towards us. And it was like, whoa, we're just taking a picture. Like, what's going on down there? You know? That was pretty funny. I had never really been into the idea of Area 51. I paid attention to some UFO thing. Michael's into it a lot more than I am to some degree. We have some of the books and stuff. And so he really wanted, because we were on our way to Vegas. We were driving to Vegas from where we are. It was about 4 hours. And so we made a pit stop at Area 51, of course. Because of course we did. I just thought that was so funny when that car came towards us and we got in the car, we drove, we were like looking at it, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Are we in a movie right now? And I made sure, yes, I love him too. Tad says, I love our Michael. We do. Ray is saying, I love Area 51. Yeah. And it was so funny because when it happened, I was kind of thrown off and I kind of made sure, and this is me, y'all. I don't know if it's just the girl, the street smart girl in me from Jersey coming out, but I made sure when we were sitting there and Michael was taking pictures and stuff and we were kind of sitting in the car initially, what I did is I got on FaceTime with my mom and my brother. I called them because I called them about everything. As y'all know, they're on this channel as well, my mom and my brother. It's a family affair. My dad doesn't do social media or anything at all, but he's also part of things. And I made sure I was on the FaceTime with them because I don't know why. I was just like, yo, if something comes out or they try to drag us in, I need someone to know this was where we were at that moment. So I made sure I was on FaceTime with my mom and my brother when we were at Area 51. Because that's how much it's kind of like, why is this such a mystery? What is going on there? Right. So just a little thing, just a little tidbit. Ray is saying, I believe it. The DEO doesn't even use that zone anymore. Yeah. That's another conspiracy theory, but we got it. We got Area 51 conspiracy theory, which, I mean, as someone who's been there and saw the government car come out and we were there for all of 10 minutes, they definitely are very much guarding that place. So have what you will, y'all. But that was my Area 51 story. Okay, so we had that. And, once again, it's a hodgepodge of, like conspiracy theories, right? So we got that. What was the other thing we got? Michael is logging in. Hey, it's everyone say hi to Michael. Wow, I picked the right time to log in. Hi, everyone. Love you all too. Yes. And join us as we talk Halloween Kills this week as well. Michael and I are going to be talking about that. Okay, so we had that. And then what was the other thing? We had that. There was another one that happened in the conspiracy theory. Remind me, y'all, there was one other conspiracy theory. But who I really want to talk about that, what I'm trying to remember, is Mamie. This episode made me want to know more about Mamie Eisenhower because I realized, I don't really know much about this first lady. Isn't that interesting? I wasn't really into Eisenhower too. There are some presidents in our history that everyone kind of knows about because there's always a movie or always some biopic about someone, right? You got Roosevelt, FDR, the boy. You got JFK, you got Nixon, of course, because of that. You got the Clintons, you got, Obama. Now you're gonna have Trump stuff. So there's certain presidents, and Washington, Lincoln. There are some presidents that always get a lot of attention, and then you got ones who they don't as much when it comes to documentaries and movies and stuff like that. And so it's very interesting because this show and some of the documentaries I had been watching previous to this show recently really has made me want to take another look at the Eisenhower presidency because so much conspiracy theories are related to this guy when it comes to the UFOs. And it was interesting, their take on Mamie. And let me know if any of you are, have read any biographies about them or Mamie or anything like that. It was very interesting, the kind of take they had Sarah Paulson take on Mamie. At first, when I saw that Sarah Paulson was playing Mamie, I was like, oh, why is she just playing Mamie? Why is she just playing First Lady? She's just going to be there and be like nodding her head and how much she loves her husband, like kind of that doting wife type of thing. And boy, did they switch it up. They definitely switched it up for her. And rightly so, though, because it was so funny watching her like have sex with Valent and then kind of throw shade at her husband and saying, when I was stuck here and you were sleeping with that woman with your little harlot at the other base and all this other stuff. And the whole thing about her fudge, the whole thing about Halloween, the thing about her kind of being, wanting to be the whole celebrating of birthdays and stuff. I was like, wow, are they just kind of taking liberties? Or, that, or is it kind of some base? And I actually did, a little research, and it's actually some base to this stuff, right? Like the whole thing about her fudge is actually a big thing. Her fudge, Mamie's fudge, was a really popular thing. When they released the ingredients of her fudge during her presidency, they said millions of housewives across the land, across the country, were doing Mamie's thing. She also made a dig at Eleanor, our girl, like Eleanor Roosevelt. Like when you talk about an epic first lady, Eleanor Roosevelt is up there. She is an epic first lady in terms of the things she did, her advocacy. I mean, she was up there, right? And it was kind of interesting that they had Mamie kind of say, I'm going to be better than her. And it was like, that's funny. Was there a little bit of a rivalry there? But then we also know, or what we find out if you do a little digging about Mamie's plot, about her life and stuff, is that, there was biographers that said she wasn't necessarily happy about JFK and coming into the White House after Eisenhower, and how there was a whole thing with Jacqueline Kennedy where Jacqueline had just had her child by C-section, and that Mamie was showing her around the house, and Mamie knew this, but didn't tell her that there were wheelchair access points. And of course there would be, right? Because of Roosevelt, because he was in a wheelchair, but she didn't tell that. And then Jacqueline ended up like kind of soldiering through. And then she like collapsed later on from exhaustion. And then later when Mamie was asked, why didn't you tell her about the wheelchair stuff? She simply was like, because she didn't ask. So I feel like Mamie had a little bite to her in real life, right? Mamie had a little bite. And actually later on, her and Nixon, that family grows closer even after Eisenhower passes, because Mamie's granddaughter and Nixon's son, I think, get married. So there's a lot of connection with this family. And we kind of saw that also in American Horror Story, kind of that alliance that they made. Ray is saying, LOL, anyone who says they are going to be better than Eleanor has already lost the battle. You either have it or you don't. Charisma, American Horror Story, not. Exactly. Solomon is saying the fact that Mamie made birthdays and Halloween mainstream was so interesting. I also love how open the TV version is, so open to the alien partnership. Yeah, exactly. And the thing about Mamie bringing Halloween, this was actually true. She was the first lady to start decorating the White House for Halloween. So the fudge and the Halloween thing is very much true to Mamie's real life. And I just thought that was so interesting that they kind of incorporated that in, and they've created this very interesting character. And then I'm suddenly like, oh, now I get why Sarah Paulson is playing this part, because this part is kind of very intricate to Eisenhower's situation and stuff like this. She's an important character, and not just the doting wife, but because she actually kind of not controlled things, but she knew stuff, and she had her ways about her, even in the real version. So for them to kind of play this, with the alien concept and her influence in that as well, I think that's I felt like that was a really good thing that they did. But let me know if y'all agree. Did you know a lot about Mamie before this? Were you curious about Mamie after watching this episode? I know I was. I was like, I got to find out about this woman, because they are kind of either they're taking liberties or something. Because that's kind of, you kind of towing a line when you do historical figures, right? People get mad. Ray is saying, I wonder what happened to the Nixon family. So, they are. I mean, they just, a lot of them, because of controversy, they fade into the background. They're probably still rich somewhere. Sad is saying, Eleanor Roosevelt did more for the working people in her time. She did. She definitely did. Eleanor is just like up there. If you first lady in terms of like real straight up impact to working class people, Eleanor is up there. So when she said that, I was like, that's shade, but you ain't on that level. People celebrating birthdays like it's not on the level of Eleanor Roosevelt. But I think it kind of showed what Mamie's thing was. Another interesting tidbit about Mamie is that she had a disease early on that kind of messed with her equilibrium. And so she wasn't always good on her feet. They don't really play into that on this show, but they claim that because of that, that fueled rumors that she was an alcoholic. Not that she really was, but more so because she was wobbly on her feet because of that previous disease. Because they said she was very much guarded about her personal life. And so that was an aspect of that. And so I thought that was also interesting too. And it was interesting they haven't played on that, but maybe that's where the alien thing comes from. Like if she had some lasting effects from being possessed by an alien, that might play into certain things. And it'd be interesting if they play on that, right? Let's see. Ray is saying, I think it says something when as a first lady, you are known more by name than 90% of the presidents. Yeah, exactly. Eleanor, right? And so I thought that was interesting. And I think within that were some kind of the conspiracy theory. Solomon is saying, seeing Sarah this season made me wish this wasn't a hybrid season. We could have had a full season of Mamie Ellen Eisenhower or TB Karen instead of bits of both. Exactly. Two great new characters for her. And we only got them in shortened stints. So that's that. Okay. So then, we saw the thing with Valent. We basically see that they're doing the hybrids and that's where we are about the hybrids. Also, what we got this episode was a little bit more on, I want to say, right, Calico, right? She kind of showed her Ursula a little bit in some aspects, but through her, we got to know that the moon landing, yet another, I'm checking it off as I write each conspiracy theory, that the moon landing, which was a conspiracy theory, that the moon landing was fake. Now that's a conspiracy theory that has gone on. And basically, it was very interesting, their explanation for why the moon landing was faked. It was more so not because they couldn't get there, but more so because in taking in consideration the way the public responds to stuff, they needed to kind of slowly ease people into the idea that we could do these technologically advanced things. It was like, why go to the moon when we have all this other technology coming to us? We're past that, but we need to have the American public realize that there's the possibility. So that kind of played into it a little bit. It's an interesting conspiracy theory because the other aspect or explanation for that conspiracy theory wasn't so much that we had known about aliens, but more so we faked the moon landing. We faked the moon landing so that we could look like we were ahead of the Russians, right? Because there was that worry that the Russians were going to get to the moon before us. And so we faked the landing so we could at least, say we got there first. Which doesn't make much sense because when others went there, they did see our flag. So maybe either everyone faked it, everyone faked that they went there, or we didn't fake it and we went there. Let me know what you think, you UFO theorist, ancient astronaut theorist out there. Did you like that aspect that they played on the faking of the moon landing? I liked in this universe the way it was explained more than just, we wanted to beat the Russians, to more so we had the technology now, but we needed to ease everyone into it. I thought that worked. I also liked hearing I also liked seeing her story a bit. It wasn't just out of nowhere. It played into the conspiracy. And I thought that was good. It was interesting that they didn't put her past in the black and white, but I guess that makes sense since it was kind of going towards the 70s. So that's fine. But I like that aspect of it. And I kind of understood her reasoning for why she kind of just came to the assumption of saying, hey, I'm going to accept my lot in life right now. I don't have to age. And I was something of a prostitute or whatnot. Before that, working for tips as a waitress. And now I'm part of the chain of evolution. I do think it's a little bit of looking at the glass half full in that regard. But what are you going to do? How are you going to escape? So you got to kind of come up with something, as we humans tend to do, right? We're very good at changing our minds and doing mental gymnastics to kind of justify a situation, right? I don't want to call it delusion, but we're very good at that. It's the power of the mind. The mind is a very powerful thing. It truly is. And so, and I could see why she had gotten to that point. And I appreciated that they had her kind of do that. I can appreciate why they tried to do it that way. So, you know, I thought it was another good conspiracy theory, another good kind of aspect of that. So that was cool to me. And then we had our present day. We had our present day, which was a little sad, a little tragic. I thought it was beautiful. At first, I really did think the guy was going to die. I thought our half of our ship this season, I thought one of them was going to die, because I'm like, okay, this is just how they're explaining. But I was like, well, if they did it that way, I guess that would be messed up. Like, what, you take guys knowing they're just going to die? Like, so it seems like the aliens have a technology now that makes it so that even with getting things brought out of you and stuff like that, for men too, because it doesn't seem to come out the regular way for them, which I figured could be a thing, because C-sections do exist. I was born through a C-section. So I'm glad that they didn't go that route, because that was a little too obvious. And it was interesting the way it ended up playing into how he was talking to his boyfriend. And I thought it was a beautiful thing, them talking about wanting to start a family. Not because necessarily starting a family is a beautiful thing, especially in this climate, but no shade. But that it was a beautiful thing that they wanted to start a family. I did think it was a little bit of a plot hole, though, because they had mentioned, I know we had joked about at parties about bringing in kids, but we really were thinking it. But honestly, the day before their camping trip, they came out to their friends as going out. Like, they weren't actually known as gay to their friends. So them saying that they would joke about it at parties didn't make sense to me, because they weren't out. So how could they joke about having kids at parties? But that's just a tidbit. I'll forgive them of I'll forgive them of that little plot hole that they didn't really that they messed up. But it kind of, I felt like it kind of humanized the situation, kind of saw the brutality, right? It's like, this being comes out of you. This thing grew inside of you. Even if it wasn't a full 9 months, this thing was a part of you, right? And so he literally had to watch. And his baby in particular looked really human, aside from the eyes being a bit wider. And you basically watch this thing that came out of you get its neck cut and it gets drowned. I mean, talk about trauma, right? It really, that was really sad for Troy, in my opinion. And I was just, I really did. I thought it was a really great, the way he portrayed that, of how sad he was and kind of losing what he thought was going to be, his child, even though, saying like, maybe it needs me, and they just kill it. And as Solomon saying, did anyone else jump when Troy's baby was killed? The baby seemed like the perfect hybrid, yet was seen as inferior, right? Like, there's some layers to that. And I think, as sad as saying, I felt horrible for Troy. I felt too. And I was like, I get it, in that sense. I'm glad that they did that, because Calico was like, you just kind of have to choose it as a litter and stuff. But I'm like, but that's not everyone can compartmentalize their emotions like that. And not everyone can, and just think about what's happening to them. Their life, if this is a thing they're going to go on for like years to come, has been stopped. They are now just a breeding term. And we get on people for doing that to animals here, right? We get on people who breed dogs and stuff just to breed. At least I do. I believe in getting strays and rescue animals and stuff. I don't agree with breeding in the sense of like dogs and stuff like that. And so, breeding just to breed for like profit, like, sell them off and stuff. So it's like, we tend to be against that for animals, right? So it's like, can you imagine being a human and always kind of being violated that way, having your stomach pulled open, and you know what I mean? Like, that's just crazy to me. And so I I got that. So even though I did think it was stupid when the boys went off and tried to deliver the baby on their own, I understood it's such a crazy situation. And even Troy said that. He was, his guy was like, you don't think it's crazy? Like, I think everything's been crazy up to this point right here. Why wouldn't we try to have a little bit more time with our kid? But this is the thing, though. It wouldn't be more time with your kid. If you have them, where are you going? Even if the baby didn't turn like crazy like it did, where would they have gone before the aliens took it away, right? I didn't really understand. I feel like his grief was making him not see past the immediate, and that was kind of sad and tragic. Let me know, do you think the boys are dead? I think that's after saying all that, I think that's the question. Did the baby kill them? Because we saw that Amelia Earhart's kid, or being, that thing that came out of her was bad, right? That thing was killing people, kind of similar to what that kid did, even though it looked a little bit more human, right? So I think the boys are goners, y'all. I think they made their last stand. We got to have a body count somehow, right? And I think that was theirs. They made their choice for love, and I think it cost them. But let me know, do you think they're going to meet their demise? I think they are. I think unless Troy scalps the baby somehow, I don't see them being able to survive this. Josh is saying, sorry, I know it's off time, but I literally just saw the trailer for Invasion, and that looks really good. I hope you watch and review the show. Oh yeah, I put it in the community, y'all, about Invasion and Chucky and stuff like that. I will be doing something on Chucky. I'm not sure if it's going to be each episode or just the whole season review. But I also want to do Invasion too, which is coming on Apple TV. So take the poll, answer the poll on which show, or if you have a write-in show you think you want me to follow, let me know. Solomon saying, I think that Cal didn't survive, but Troy might have, but will be done away with by the aliens. Yeah. I think it's going to be dire for them, y'all. I don't see it. But then again, maybe that's where, could you imagine? What would you do in that situation if you thought you had no choice but to end up being a breeder versus, some kind of symbolic freedom, right? Tad is saying, hell yes, for everyone that adopts animals. All living things should be wanted unless they are octopus killing machines. Yes, exactly. I'm all about, all three of my cats are rescues, y'all. I love my street cats. I think they're goners. So I think what we have left are the girls. And I don't know what's going to happen. What we did see in the preview, though, was Valiant Thor saying back in the day that they surmised that the closest or the most perfect hybrid is supposed to happen in 2021. So this may be a little inkling into how this all connects. Maybe how Red Tide connects, because maybe one of the girls are going to have the perfect hybrid baby. And if that's the case, who does that kid grow up to be? Now I think it's happening in 2021. So I don't know, unless we find out that this is actually the 1990s or something for them. But I don't think it is, because they had smartphones. So maybe it just ends with them having the perfect hybrid baby, and maybe that connects to AHS somehow, the future season. I'm still holding out hope that this is connected to Red Tide, y'all. But maybe I'm being naive. Maybe it just won't. What do you think? Let me know your theories. I'm curious to know what your theories are. But I really enjoyed this episode. I did. It had heart to it, especially with the boys. I was sad for them, but I saw it coming. I'm like, either he's going to bleed out and die, or that thing's going to eat him. So yeah, saw it happening. But I also like the espionage and the conspiracy theory. So I'm excited to see where it is. But we also know with American Horror Stories, their season finales, they kind of leave you wanting. They just leave you kind of like, well, this may not be, this may not be what we want. Tad is saying, please not Kindle. We don't need a condescending hybrid. Like, no, we don't want her to have the one. Maybe not. I don't know. I was kind of worried for a second. I actually said this when I was looking at the episode. I'm like, what if it turns out maybe this is like a couple of years? Maybe it's not like 2020. Maybe it's like 20 something. And it turns out that it's Alma. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm going to be so mad. Alma better not be in any way connected to this. I'm going to be so mad if she's like part of a hybrid or something. I worried about that. That's when the real fear of this show came into me. I was like, Alma better be no way that Alma's a friggin' hybrid. I'm gonna be so mad. I'm done with that character. She needs to meet her end. Jorge, Jorge with the $4.99. Thank you so much for that. Hi, episode was better than last and would wish each timeline had its own episode. Can't wait for your Halloween chat for sure. Yeah, definitely, y'all. Come join the Halloween Kills live stream this Thursday. I got stuff to talk about with that show, with that movie, and where the trilogy is going. But thank you so much for the super chat love. It's always appreciated. I love talking stories with you all in general, period. But this is always appreciated as well. So thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Everyone give a hands up. Give some claps. We love it. Let's see what Solomon is saying. I wonder what will happen with Jamie. She seems so irrelevant now. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, where are they going with the last episode? That's why I'm kind of like, oh, why did this have to be only 4 episodes? I mean, I think Red Tide should have been longer too, but I also now think Death Valley needed to be longer. So I'm kind of like, why did they do? Even when I finished, I was like, why was this a double feature? Why wasn't each of these just their own season? Like, why the shortened season for 2 stories that could have totally been each of them like 10 to 12 episodes long, right? Let me know what y'all think. Did you want Death Valley to be longer? Are you kind of okay with them tying this up in the final episode? Let me know. I'm curious to see what you all think about that. For sure. So just let me know what you think about that. But yeah, overall, I'm digging it. I love history, y'all, as y'all probably know from the stuff I talk about and theories and knowledge and everything. So it was really cool to kind of go into this and talk about and learn a little bit more about Eisenhower and Mamie. If nothing else, they served in me digging a little bit more into history. So so let me know what you all think about that. And as always, enjoy the rest of your week. Join me and Michael for Halloween Kills, the live stream. I also am hoping to soon be doing a Candyman live stream as well. Spoiler discussion talk with the latest with Candyman 2021 as well, and a few other ones. I want to kind of do more deep dives of like some horror movies, some recent horror movies like Halloween Kills and stuff like that, where we could spoiler talk about them. So be on the lookout for that, y'all, and be on the lookout for some new episode live streams happening. So until next time, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all later. Okay, be safe out there.